I'm sure a lot of people know you around the world for one particular brand that everyone consumes around the world. But can you briefly introduce yourself? So you're the former president of Starbucks, and just give us a glimpse here of what you have done to that company. How did you transform it, and how did you end up working for or at Starbucks at all?
Well, you're talking to a guy that barely got out of high school. I had a couple of years of community college, and I went to work, and I basically spent my whole working career in either retail or consumer service of some kind. So I was direct to consumer kind of businesses. And when I was in my mid 40s, I was president of a consumer land development company that got in trouble, and we had to sell it. And I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, but I decided I wanted to buy a business. And so I started looking around for businesses to buy, but along that way, I have a friend that was one of the co-founders of Costco, a guy named Jeff Brotman, who's since passed away. But he said, "I want you to meet this young guy named Howard Schultz. He's bought Starbucks, and I knew Starbucks. I'd been a customer for a long time, um, and so I met with Howard, and he had this long list. He was looking for a vice president of operations. He had this long list of criteria that he wanted. First thing was a college degree. I didn't have that. And the second thing was he wanted food service experience. I didn't have that. Finally, we got down to number 10, can I breathe? I qualified for that. I could breathe. But we shook hands and said goodbye because I really wanted to buy a business. Howard Schultz and I parted ways as went on to, I was looking to buy my own business and I didn't fit his criteria. So a year passed and I had found a business to buy and but at the same time Howard hadn't filled his job, and I went to see a guy that was one of Howard's first investors that knew a lot about the business I was trying to buy. And he just looked at me and said, "What do you want to do that for? We need a guy like you right here at Starbucks." So I related the story. He said, "Yeah, but we still haven't filled that role and you'd be perfect. I want you to talk to Howard again." So I talked to Howard again and we met and I said, "Howard, before you think about making an offer or before I think about making a decision to join you if that would happen, uh, can I work in the company for a week? I'll do it for free. I'd like to work in the stores for a couple of days. I'd like to work in the roasting plant for a few days and out in the trucks for a few days." And so I did that. And by the end of that week, I'd fallen in love with Starbucks, and fortunately, Howard extended an offer for me to join. So in essence, I turned right instead of left. I was lucky. But my definition of luck is where opportunity meets preparation, and the opportunity came back at me, and I was prepared to take it. And then kind of the rest is history.
So what about it's not about the coffee? Tell me more about this book. What is it about then, if it's not about coffee? What was your mission at Starbucks? What have you done throughout the years to make it so big or international as it is today?
Well, as the answer to the question, it's about people. And I came to Starbucks with, I wasn't a kid anymore. I was in my mid 40s, and Starbucks was like every entrepreneurial company. They think it's about the product or the service they're selling. And so I kept telling Howard and everybody else on the team, "Hey, yes, are we in coffee business? Yes, but it's not about the coffee. It's about the people." And and I brought servant leadership to Starbucks, and the idea that leaders are here to serve their people, not the other way around. Leaders have three primary roles: to help their people grow as human beings, to help their people grow as professionals, and to help them achieve their own personal goals. And if you do that well, then the people commit to your organization. And so I brought that to Starbucks, and that's what I drove within the company. I said, we're not in the coffee business serving people, we're in the people business serving coffee. Sounds like a small play on words, but it was very meaningful. And as a matter of fact, it's still alive at Starbucks today. And every entrepreneur thinks it's about their product. It's not. The minute you serve somebody, the minute you hire one person, now it becomes about the people. And so that's what we drove. And that the truth of the matter is our focus on helping people grow, on serving our own people first, and then serving those human beings we call customers, is what made Starbucks work. Without it, we wouldn't have been anything.
Thank you for sharing this. But what's your take on the current situation? There's still a lot of businesses out there that don't nurture the culture, the internal culture. They focus really on the growth, as you said, and they pretty focus on services and products. And now the younger generations are really into having a perfect work-life balance, have this perfect environment at work where they don't feel uncomfortable, they are here, and they can do whatever they can to make that transformation, but also grow with that business. What do you think businesses can do these days to make those
Well,
changes and improve it? Because there's still a huge percentage of businesses that don't really care about people.
well, outside of the work from home, I won't get into that because it's an impossible situation. Young people feel like they can work from home and everything will be the same. That's like saying you get married and you live in two separate cities for the rest of your life. Some people can make that work, right? But it's a different kind of relationship. And I don't think it works very well. I think that you got to have interaction, physical interaction with the people that you work with. You got to be there, be able to talk to them, have conversations in the hallways and see each other and see each other's emotions. But okay, let's leave that out. I don't think, I think that from time immemorial, people have wanted to work for organizations that have greater purposes than themselves. And I don't think that's new. I think that's been around forever. I think if you look back at the really great organizations, you know, certainly throughout the last 100 years, those have been the organizations that have a greater purpose. It hasn't been just about growing sales or making a profit, but it's about serving people in some form or another. And those that do that well, I think have been very successful. Now, there's no guarantee of success if you do that well. As a matter of fact, I know a lot of companies that haven't treated their people well, that really could care less about their people, that have made lots of money. But I don't think it's the right way to lead. And at the end of the day, if that's all this is about, then if it's only about making money, then that's a very shallow reason for living.
So on that note, what advice would you give to younger people, in particular, when they're choosing a career path? Taking you as an example,
Yeah.
what you've achieved, what you've done, and not necessarily having like the top degrees or, be financially backed to do whatever you want and go and try things out. What would you tell younger people? Not necessarily maybe in your path, but in general when choosing a career or a direction in life to pursue something they're interested in.
Yeah. Well, you may not know, depending on your age, you may not know what you're interested in. And so you need to go get some work, get hired on to different companies and see what you like about them. But I always believe that you should choose a company by its values first. They should match up to your own values, somewhat. And if you don't know what your own values are, then it's very difficult to choose the right kind of company for you. So the first thing I think young people need to do is to figure out who they are. What are their 8 to 10 core values? And you can go online. There'll be a list of 300 human values. Try to get it down to 8 to 10 core. It doesn't mean there aren't others that represent you, but 8 to 10 core values. This is who you are, and then define those values. What do those values mean to you? So my first core value is honesty. So if I ask probably all your listeners, are you honest? Probably everyone would say yes. And then the next question I'd ask, okay, what would you tell a white lie about? Or what would you lie about? And because everybody has and everybody does. So very few people that I don't know anybody that hasn't, as a matter of fact. But so, and so then once you figure out what those values mean to you, then how do they inform your decisions and actions you make in your life? So you have these 8 to 10 core values. Now you look for what the company's values are. So you find that by what they write down, what their mission statement is, what their guiding principles or values are. And then you start to talk to people that work in the organization and you ask, are these true? And how do they expose themselves in the real work life at this company? So is Starbucks a good place to work? They say they treat people well. Do they really? And not everybody will have had the same experience at Starbucks. So you have to sometimes dig a little deeper. But we're not victims. We can choose where we want to go to work. Now, maybe we need to make a living to put some food on the table for a while. So, maybe you work at a fast food place or a restaurant or whatever it is that you want to do for a while just to put some food on the table. But then all the time you should be searching is, where do I want to work? Now you'll get into a company hopefully that shares common values with you, and you see, is this the kind of business or work that I like? Is this the kind of nonprofit I like to work at? What do they do? And what is their greater purpose? And does it align with my greater purpose in life? And so don't be a victim in your journey. Be intentional about your life. There's an old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. So have goals for what you want to accomplish in your life. Have a personal mission statement. My personal mission statement goes like this. Every day I want to nurture and inspire the human spirit, beginning with myself first and then for others. And so, have an idea of where you want to go and who you are, and then try to match your career up with that. Because when you don't do that, the work becomes very boring and tedious. And you need to be able to attach to your work, just like you attach to the other parts of your life. People are always worried about balance. I like a different word better. I say, let's worry more about integrating home and work. Because when you do that, it's a much better life. Trying to have that perfect balance in your life, it's an impossibility. It doesn't work. Tell me an ice skater that has perfect balance. Even the best look like they have perfect balance, but they don't. They're always going a little bit back and forth. It's always just a little wavy. And so don't strive for this, perfect balance in life. There's no such thing. There's times when you're going to spend more time at home, more time at work, more time with your kids, more time in your hobbies or whatever it is. But whatever it is you want out of life, maybe it isn't work that you want. Maybe you want to be, do something else. Then understand that you've got to still integrate your work and your personal life.
Do you think society could do something different to prepare actually people in life better for things such as work or
I
doing
do.
general tasks in life, so they get ready and they know how to be confident and try and do errors when they choose career path, and not being necessarily fearful as we see these days, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Just what I just talked about. Where are you going? What are your goals in life? What's your 3 to 5 year plan of what you want to accomplish in your life? Where are you heading? So I would have goals, and I still do today. I'm 79 years old, and I still have a 5 year plan, which is getting pretty optimistic now. Uh, but uh, but I had goals of how much money I wanted to make. I had goals of what I wanted to learn. I had goals on what kind of positions I wanted to hold. I had goals about family goals. I had goals about physical health. What is it you're trying to do? So in let's say that you're trying to discover your work life. Maybe it's one of your goals is to find a company that measures up with my values, or find a company that has a purpose that I can align with, or find a company where I have the opportunity to grow not only personally but as a professional as well. So, I don't think very few people go to college or go to high school and come out and say, this is exactly what I want to do. Some do, some want to be doctors and lawyers, but I can't tell you how many people that I know have gone to law school and then they go out in the law field and they hate it and they don't want to do it, you know? And that's okay. You didn't waste your time because you learned how to learn. Uh, you know, but you got to have a goals, and you got to have a reason for being, and those things help guide you. And then experiment with things. Most of us are going to have 8 to 10 different careers in our lifetime. So if you get into the wrong one, don't worry about it. Find something else that you like to do. But really work on trying to find an organization and people that you align with.
Up until this point in your life, is there anything you would want to go back and do differently in the past or in life in general? Or were you quite happy and satisfied how things progressed in general and where they took you up until today?
No, there's things that I wish I would have gotten a college degree. I had a lot of insecurities about that for a long, long time, until I finally, I had a lot of experience. I'd worked a lot, so I knew a lot of things, and um, I could teach the MBAs a few things, and they could teach me a few things. But I wish I'd had a college degree. The other thing, I wish I'd have taken more risk. That I would have started my own business. Now, it all ended up great because I started with Starbucks when there were 28 stores. So it was as much mine as it was Howard Schultz's. And uh, so, but I was the chief operating officer at Starbucks for a while, and I started the international business. And, it was a great thrill, and I aligned really well with the organization. But I still, in my heart, wish I would have either started a company or led my own company, and I was kind of afraid to take the risk.
What's one piece of advice you received in your life that you carried and followed it in your career or privately in general? Is there a piece of advice that stuck in your head and you followed it religiously?
Uh, well, two is to have a plan. I got that in my late 20s to to define who I was, so that I wasn't just floating around. And three would be to be clear about what my greater purpose was. Those three things together.
One habit that positive impact on the things you've done in life in general, whether reading, exercising, or whatever. Is there one that you haven't mentioned in your book or somewhere else?
Well, one habit I have is coffee. I look forward to drinking that cup of coffee in the morning. But I have a habit of doing affirmations. So to reinforce what I'm trying to do. And so one of my most important affirmations is I am enough, I have enough, I do enough. And that keeps me aligned. And then the other one is I love myself unconditionally. And those two affirmations have been keystones in my life.
Do you think Starbucks will change drastically in the future? I mean, they're popping up like mushrooms at every corner, especially I'm from the United Kingdom and I can see just in the place where I live, there are already six Starbucks and so they're growing rapidly and they're innovating and creating new things. Do you think they can change drastically so they will dominate in a way the coffee industry that others will follow?
I don't like the word dominate. Uh, okay, we're not the goal is not to dominate. The goal is to serve those human beings we call customers well enough that they want to come back. And I don't like even the word customer because I think when you use the word customer, that person you think that person has a dollar bill pasted to their forehead, and if you just manipulate them in some way, you'll get the dollar bill. These are human beings serving human beings, and if we do that well, then we'll be fine. And I don't get caught up in how many stores we have. It's one customer, one store at a time, one cup of coffee at a time. That's all it is, and it's no more than that. And I think Starbucks will continue to grow. Nothing goes forever. Everything, just like human beings, has a life. When that life is, I don't know. But my goal is for Starbucks to be around for at least 100 years. I won't be around. Maybe you will be.
But talking about lifestyle or happiness in general, what would you say is, in your opinion, a key to successful and fulfilling life in general? Everyone has a different answer to it, so there's no one answer that fits all.
Well, I think your word is correct. It's not about happiness, it's about fulfillment. And in order to have a fulfilling life, you have to have there's times of happiness, there's times of sadness, there's times of disappointment, there's times of anger, there's times of joy, there's times of success, there's times of failure. You have to experience all the things in life, right? In order to have a fulfilling life. And that's what fulfillment is all about. It's not about happiness. Nobody is happy every day. Nobody's happy every minute. Happiness is part of life. There are times.
Maybe a piece of advice for younger generations in particular, how they should be dealing with relationships today, whether this would be professional, romantic, or private relationships. We're now surrounded with a lot of technology, so we're kind of isolating ourselves from interacting with people more. As you said before, the remote working is not necessarily an ideal environment, and it's maybe taking us more apart than it should put us together. And there are challenges where younger people in general, facing difficulties dealing with relationships. What tip or advice would you have for them in general?
Well, you got to get out there. You can't be sitting in your home working on your computer 8 hours a day and not be out there with other people. And because, we grow when we are around other people. We learn from their experiences. We learn from their challenges. We learn from their disappointments, whatever it happens to be. But I think that you got to get out there. There's no substitute for personal relationships. There's no substitute for being able to sit next to somebody or across the table from somebody and be able to look in somebody's eyes and have a conversation, whether it be romance or whether it be just a friendship. It doesn't make any difference. There just is no substitute for that. And you know, we read a lot today about people being lonely. Well, they're lonely because they're not out there. you know, and, and you can't be fearful of being out there. You're not going to like everybody you meet. Not everybody is going to like you, but you got to get out there and experiment all the time. And, I say go volunteer for something. Find a nonprofit that you can volunteer for. Go to a soup kitchen and serve people. Go teach young kids how to read. I don't care what it is. Get out of the house and touch people, right? In any way you can, and it can be through friendships, it can be through work, it can be through volunteering, it can be for whatever it is that you want to do. Get out there and be among the people. That's the best way, and get over your fearfulness over that. We're all human beings. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. All of us have faults. All of us say things that we wish we wouldn't have said. All of us hear things that we wish we wouldn't have heard. That's part of life. Start to get comfortable in your own skin and get comfortable with other people's skin.
So do you think all of this has to come with age? We can't have the wisdom or knowledge, or do you think there's a faster way for younger people maybe to learn things?
Well, I think we learn as we grow and certainly as we get older. But I know a lot of people that are 80 years old that haven't grown a bit, and they're still trapped in their 20-year-old brain. But we all have to learn and grow. And I you know I don't think it's about age. I've seen some 15-year-olds that have lived a longer life than some 70-year-olds. They're more in touch with themselves. And so I don't think it's an age thing. I think it's just exposing yourself to to other ideas, to other thoughts. Read or listen to books on tape, or go to lectures, or go see good plays, or be part of humanity, be part of society, and you'll grow and you'll learn and challenge yourself. Personal growth is important. You should be learning something all the time. I mean, and that should be part of your goals. What do you want to learn? One of the goals that I had was to become proficient, on a computer. And, I'm old. When computers started really coming out, I was in my 50s, 40s and 50s. I got my daughter, we brought a computer. That first Apple computer came in a box. I forget what it was called now, and I looked at that thing and I didn't even know what to do with it. My daughter was 8 years old. She unpacked it, plugged it in, and started using it. She was not fearful. So we got to get over our fears and do it. Age is not the issue.
Are there any books that you've read in your life that you would recommend to anyone to read that could be inspirational in general?
Well, one of my favorite books is called The Boys in the Boat. And The Boys in the Boat is a story. It's about the 1936 University of Washington men's crew going to Nazi Germany and winning the Olympics in Nazi Germany. These were all a bunch of poor kids that come from different parts of the state of Washington, and the guy that built the boats built unique boats, and it's a great story about teamwork and perseverance.
Shared some really interesting pieces of advice, stories in general, but there's one final question I always ask. Could you share a piece of wisdom, in particular to the younger generations, apart from everything you said during the interview that could potentially guide them in life in general? Is there a piece of advice, a final word of wisdom you would want to share with them?
Well, one of my favorite quotes came from a guy named Ray Kroc, who's the kind of not really the founder of McDonald's, but the modern day founder of McDonald's. And the quote is this: "Turn your fears into faith." Get over your fears and have faith that you can. And it's important. And you know, to me, that's a really critical one because we're all fearful. And so the key in life is how to turn those fears into faith that you can do things.
Very, very wonderful. Howard, I really wanted to thank you for your time. It's an absolute honor for really you taking and making the time to speak to me today.
Okay, Matt. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.